This is the iPhone X, the first iPhone to introduce an OLED display, an all-glass and stainless steel body, wireless charging, and the removal of the home button. Although the iPhone X wasn't just an example of what Apple could do, it was a demonstration of what others have yet to achieve. Hey, what's up everyone? It's Valley, and today we're going to be taking a look at this 5-year-old iPhone X from 2017. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you do so, and let's get right into it. On September 12th, 2017, Apple showcased and announced the iPhone X for the very first time. This right here is the biggest change that Apple has made to the iPhone since its inception in 2007. This iPhone X was a unicorn. Simply put, there was nothing else like it at the time when this phone was released. Not only is this one of the first phones to break the $1,000 barrier, but this is also the most expensive iPhone, or it was at the time that it was released. Apple had packed this thing with a bunch of tech, like Face ID for example, which being 5 years old now is still the most secure biometric that we use in any phone. They rounded the display's corners by bending a flexible OLED under itself, allowing the edges of the phone to be closer to the display, not only making it more compact, but increasing the screen-to-body ratio and even making it more comfortable in the hand. It was also the first iPhone to support HDR10 and Dolby Vision, as well as it being Apple's first Super Retina display. This is a 2436 by 1125 resolution display, which is over 1080p. And it had a 456 pixels per inch. Even for today's standards, this display looks incredible, and it's kind of odd holding it in my hand realizing that this is a 5-year-old phone because it really doesn't feel like it. Launching with iOS 11, it was also the first phone to widely adopt using gesture navigation. A swipe up took you home, a swipe up and hold brought you to your recent applications, and a swipe to the side took you back from where you were. It was really awkward for a lot of people to get used to in the beginning, but now this is the way that almost everybody interacts with their smartphone. Even Android followed suit and added gesture navigation as the main way to interact since the release of Android 10 in 2019, which was almost 2 years after the iPhone X. This iPhone X specifically is mine. I bought this one on release day, November 3rd, 2017. And this, aside from my S22 Ultra, is probably my favorite phone that I've ever owned. When the XS came out, I ended up upgrading to the silver XS Max, and I ended up giving this phone to my mom. After 4 years of her using this phone as a daily driver, I finally got this thing back in my hands, and man, like the instant memories that came back to me, it was just wild. I remember taking this thing around and going to like college parties and having people ask about it all the time because it was like the most unique phone, and everyone that saw you using it always asked questions about it. And at the time too, it was one of the most impressive cameras on a phone. So every time I was at some sort of party or event with my friends, I was the one that was taking the photos, or at least someone would be taking the photos with this phone. But memories and stuff aside, as someone that likes tech, this was truly a marvel of a phone for its time. See, the iPhone X wasn't just innovative for Apple, it really shaped the entire tech industry. This phone right here is single-handedly responsible for some of the designs that we've seen come out ever since 2017 in flagship phones. One thing that we can all agree on though is that this thing started possibly the worst trend ever: the notch. Fitting the earpiece speaker and Face ID sensor in the top bezel was just not something that was necessarily possible at the time, so Apple had to come up with a way to solve this and make the bezels look as unified as they can be. So to do this, they created the notch. Back then, the notch was basically necessary to be able to achieve this design. And a bunch of other companies even followed suit, even though they didn't have that Face ID sensor or anything inside the phone that would really warrant a notch. Google, for example, with the Pixel 4 XL, OnePlus with the 6T, Huawei with the Mate 20 Pro, and LG with the V40 Thin-Q. And does anyone remember the Essential phone? Because I do. That thing looked beautiful, but even that had a notch for the camera cutout. Anyways, the notch, while hated, did become a part of Apple's design language. Some companies started to innovate beyond it though, bringing us hole punch cameras and under-display cameras as a way to avoid having a giant cutout, but it's now a trademark part of what makes an Apple device, just like the home button and earpiece with that old silhouette. Which To clarify, I'm not a fan of it, but it just does make the phone extremely recognizable. And like when it comes to mobile phones, brand recognition is extremely important because you can only really make a rectangle look different in so many various ways. But personally, I'm really glad this trend is starting to die. Larger companies like Samsung are actively trying to have fully unobstructed displays even on their highest end phones, despite the tech not exactly being fully ready for it. Moving on from the notch though, what I did find slightly odd and very comfortable about the iPhone X was the size. It's been 5 years now and phones have just got bigger and bigger, and having the iPhone X in my hand made me realize how comfortable smartphones used to be. The iPhone X sits almost exactly between the dimensions of the 13 and the 13 mini, with the mini boasting a 5.4-inch display and the iPhone X having a 5.8. I kind of forgot how compact phones used to be. And not only compact, but comfortable. The rounded stainless steel edges of the iPhone X made this phone super nice to hold. It fits perfectly in my hand with the corner sitting flush in the curvature of my palm. I could use this phone for literally hours at a time, which is something that can't really be said about the flat edges, which are now the standard. Even my S22 Ultra, which I love a ton, has these like super sharp 90-degree edges that come to a really tight point, and it makes it very comfortable to hold if you're using your phone one-handed for an extended period of time. Like personally, I just can't remember a phone of recent years that was as comfortable as something like the iPhone X. Nothing about the phone was sharp or intrusive. The camera bump was very minimal compared to what we have today, and the phone had a nice weight to it without being heavy, and it still feels super premium even now. Also, this exact phone has been being used every day for almost 5 years now and still has a 90% battery health, which I don't even know how that's possible because I've got newer phones down quicker than this thing has died, which is crazy. And it still performs great despite the really dated A11 Bionic. Like, if you had put this phone in your hand and used it on a day-to-day basis, you probably wouldn't really know much of a difference between this and something a little bit more recent. And the first thing that I tried to do with this phone was see if I could download the iOS 16 beta, and I did. Like, iOS 16 is coming out for this device that's 5 years old. It kind of makes me jealous, like the support that Samsung gets versus the support that something like an iPhone would get. To be fair, it's not like I'd be keeping any of my phones 4 or 5 years or anything even relatively close to that, but it's just kind of wild that this thing is still getting support when it feels like I've used it ages and ages ago. What I think is crazy and kind of made me want to create this video is that I feel like if I put my SIM card in the iPhone X, I'd have a very comparable, obviously not better experience than what I'm getting today. And I think it's just wild that this phone that is 5 years old is usable today. I can totally see people buying this thing for like $100 to $200 on eBay and using this as a daily driver. I don't see why not. Performance is not going to be the greatest. Camera is not going to be the greatest as, you know, what you have today, but for a $100 to $200 budget phone, this thing is incredible. Actually, let me know if you want to see a video where I try to use this thing for a week and see if I can really put my money where my mouth is. Well, that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been fun to look back at this iPhone and just think, you know, how odd of a time it was when this thing came out that there was nothing else like it. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.